Good morning, and thank you for joining CSL Parker today. A warm welcome to our member community and our global family far and wide. I'm Dr. Nadine Rogers, the interim spiritual leader here at CSL Parker, and it is an honor and a joy to be able to walk side by side with you on this path of conscious evolution. Now we're going to begin this morning by lighting our unity candle. And we do so knowing that this light symbolizes the transformative power, the creative source that lives within each one of us equally. And in remembering this, unites us all in truth. The vision we have at CSL Parker is that we are a global resource helping people discover and live that spiritual truth. We are a learning center for practical spirituality that we can apply to our everyday life based upon the Science of Mind and Spirit written by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Dr. Holmes summarizes his teaching as the correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of world religions applied to human needs and the aspirations of man. Being an inclusive community, we honor all mindful paths to the one. And we're learning together how to celebrate and honor diversity, as well as rejoice and become stronger in what unites us. I think it's just grand that we're all each other's teachers and students as we come to understand that we truly are spiritual beings having a human experience. That everything we think we may lack or need is only and ever found within us, and that we're here to walk each other home. We know that you are blessed here and now, so just sit back and relax and enjoy this upcoming time of music and meditation.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed.
I begin this meditation with one purpose, that of love. Looking inside and asking the question, am I in a place of completely undefended love? So with this purpose in mind, I settle into my chair. I straighten my back. I align my neck, my back, my pelvis, my feet, and I begin sense of gratitude, the warmth of my hands as they rest on my knees, my feet planted firmly on the ground. I let that gratitude touch me and nurture the sense of love. With my eyes still closed, I focus on that place in my forehead above my nose, and I envision my spiritual third eye. I know it is wide open, fully receptive to the divine. I picture love. I am in full and complete acceptance of who and what I am. I have certainty in my relationship with the divine. My heart is open and receptive to all people in recognition and respect of their divine inheritance. I listen. I listen to understand. I listen with empathy. I listen with respect. And the whole while, I remain in harmony with the divine, certain in my own personal inherited divinity from the Creator. I respect and listen. I am receptive to helping when the hand is reached out. I embrace relationships, always with love, always accepting, always honoring the divinity in all, knowing I can love without apology. I can love in a limitless, nurturing, supportive state of mind while retaining truth and integrity in my life. And so I settle on that confidence. I settle into that knowing, and I bring myself back to the world. I open my eyes knowing that the core, the spiritual flame, the truth remains strong in me and growing every day. I open my eyes and look around, and with gratitude, I release my word knowing it is so. And so it is.
My feet finally left the ledge. Like an acrobat, there's no turning back. I'm letting go of the life I planned for me and my dreams. I'm losing control of my destiny. It feels like I'm falling, and that's what it's like to believe. So I'm letting go. This is a giant leap of faith, trusting, trying to embrace the fear of the unknown, beyond my comfort zone. I'm letting go of the life I planned for me and my dreams. I'm losing control of my destiny. It feels like I'm falling, and that's what it's like to believe. So I'm letting go, giving into spirit's gravity, knowing spirit is holding me. I'm not afraid. I'm letting go of the life I planned for me and my dreams. I'm losing control of my destiny. It feels like I'm falling, and that's what it's like to believe. It feels like I'm falling, and that's the life for me. I'm letting go, yeah. It feels like I'm falling, and that's what it's like to believe. It feels like I'm falling, and this is the life for me.
Good morning again. We continue to explore this month the theme of inclusion in action. And I felt, therefore, it congruent to enter into this idea of today's topic, undefended love, by continuing the conversation around the intimacy we create with life through initiating our mystical souls. It is well known that many have been considered mystics through the ages, not defined by beliefs or culture, but because of their creative intelligence and action. Poets and artists, inventors and philosophers, these mystics have deeply colored and enriched our altruistic experience of life's beauty. They do not read human thought, but rather they sense the atmosphere of God and have all revealed one and the same truth. From Jacob the cobbler to Moses, who read God's law from a burning bush, to Emerson, to Rumi, to Da Vinci, holy moments have stood time. Still, in our own recreation of spiritual illumination is a place where nothing needs to be said, for it is purely felt. This is a calling to be aware of our seeking behaviors, which we have developed and perfected over time, distractors to intimacy, keeping us in the cycle of separation from anything, anyone, or any ideology that we feel threatens our safety and our identity. We can't stop the seeking behavior if we are grasping onto our truth as the only truth, or grabbing onto the specialness of our identity, or remaining comfortable in the familiar. We must, however, accept whatever is our subjective experience in order to open to the totality of truth, the mystic's vision. And we can do this through walking the path as undefended love. I'd like to state from the beginning that undefended love is not nirvana, nor is it accessed through the grand cover-up. But it begins, as all things begin, in the principle of oneness. So I'd like to say a few words about that. You know how it is said that the presence of God cannot be seen, yet is always present? Is this the truth? It is said and believed that the God of our understanding can be felt, yet is invisible, has miraculous qualities that are infinite, and lives in, as, and all there is, but is invisible. The body has life, and so does everything that exists. Life is air, and breath in the body is air. It is said that God is spirit, life, creative intelligence, which are names and concepts of God, yet are concepts that cannot be seen, but are present everywhere, and is all that exists at all times. Well, I'd like to propose that this is not the truth, according to the principle of oneness. Because if God is all there is, then it must follow that God can be seen, or the theory of oneness fails. We cannot attribute duality to God. Let God be solely God. If we suppose that God emanates until a certain point, and from that point on is outside of it, we have dualized the idea of God. Rather, we should realize that God exists in each existent. So let us not say things like, this is a stone and not God. Rather, all existence is God, and the stone is a thing pervaded by divinity. I really thought that the principle of oneness might be a good place to start before addressing undefended love. So let's just look at this idea of undefended love in relationship with both personality self, which will shape our human-to-human relationships, and ultimately the expression of our own divine essence, and that idea of our sacred relationship with the beloved. The journey of undefended love as personality, or the sense of individual self, could begin in the awareness of how we use emotional survival strategies to cover up our inadequacies. Those places in which we feel a lack of capacity to be able to deal with this or that. As we shed our mantles of protection by being aware and eliminating our emotional survival strategies and resetting our mental and emotional picture of who we are, we slowly shift our center of gravity away from personality toward essence. Here we find the invisible place within ourselves, which has always been present as love undefended. The all of creation does not need, nor has the capacity to know itself other than that of which it is. But somehow, in our shallow breathing minds, we have created a great need to be other than who we are. For our idea of who we are is missing something. It's my personal experience that the devotion to nurturing and nourishing oneself creates a natural release of the need to convince others of our capacity to love or our need for love, and moves us into the energy of love's realm. That real reality, becoming undisturbed to anything, unlike love's truth. Wouldn't that be nice? One of the most well-advertised statements of Dr. Holmes is, there is a power for good in the universe and you can use it. I like this statement because it does give us hope in terms of our own involvement in how our reality shows up. An essential place of new beginning, and as we travel this path of spiritual evolution, we begin to realize our part is just that, an equal and important contribution to our desired and envisioned life. But I think the true measure of living undefended as love is when our faith is as deep as the ocean and our joy, as my father once wrote me, is as wide as the sky. Here we begin to allow the divine within, that creative source back of all life, expressing in, as, and through us, to be our senior partner, or the voice we hunger to listen to first. Here we know that God's will for us, using older and dualistic languaging, is for us to accept our true divine inheritance in our own unique way of discovering our humanity as not separate from our divinity. If you tuned in last week, you would have heard Alicia, our musical director, sing the song by Ricky Byers called Use Me. It was shortly after I became conscious of the principle of oneness that, loving to compose chants as I do, I took creative licensing in rewriting some of the lyrics. Here is how it is written. Use me, O God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide, as you show me all that I must do. So then I added the sacred complement to her lyrics, and it sounds like this. Use me, oh my child, I stand in you, and here I'll abide, as you show me all that I can be. See, we are that love. Love, a synonym for God, is all there is. And Holmes describes love this way. He says, love is the central flame of the universe, nay, the very flame itself. Love is an essence. It's an atmosphere which defies analysis, as does life itself. It is that which is and cannot be explained. The essence of love, while elusive, pervades everything. It fires the heart. It stimulates the emotions. It renews the souls and proclaims the spirit. Love reigns supreme over all. So to be a giver and receiver of undefended love asks us to become intimate with our own true nature as being love, and therefore the true nature of others. And because our true nature is love, there is something within each of us that recognizes itself in intimate moments of unconditional giving and receiving love. Does this resonate with you? If we choose to live from this idea of oneness through becoming more intimate with our true nature, then intimacy will be comprised of exposing our true selves before strangers. Now, before you start withdrawing, let me say that I believe we're all strangers. Nobody knows anybody. We are even strangers to ourselves because we don't know who we are. We have to drop all our defenses to be intimate with what it is we don't know. Yet, where do we begin? Well, we have been taught through religions, our cultures, our societies, our education, and our parents to often repress, inhibit those natural urges of being spontaneous. Have you heard that thinking without thinking, you can't proceed? You know, thought comes before form. We know this in a metaphysical sense, but I remember my mom saying, think before you act. You know, and if we don't, our results can be no good. So I've learned, as I'm sure you have, to feel safe by keeping a little defense up, a little distance, because someone can take advantage of you if you're vulnerable. You know, I know that letting folks in when we feel vulnerable is not our everyday motivator when we spring out of bed and put our feet on the floor, or is it the last thought that takes us into dream time? Many of us are afraid of intimacy. And this creates a complication in life, for we all want intimacy. Without it, we are alone. Without someone to trust, we can't be open. We can't open our wounds, and wounds cannot heal unless they're open. And most importantly, we cannot be our own best friend and learn to trust ourselves. The mystic soul within us knows we must remain always in the present to witness God ising everywhere and to be able to access the power in the universe that works through us. In other words, we must start where we are. And where we are means defining what it is we need and asking ourselves what it is we can become that will satisfy our need. The clearer our understanding and willingness to take a look at how we can meet our own needs, the more we will feel that there is no need to search for it in another, nor in an asking method of prayer to the God of our understanding. Unless we know what it is we need, how can we ever find its fulfillment? Now, we try many different emotional strategies to keep ourselves away from feelings that defining our needs might evoke. And some of them, in hindsight, can feel a little amusing. I wonder if you recognize some of these emotional strategies. Overuse of substance, addictions to anything, isolation, manipulation, usury, if you're honest. Are you familiar with any of these subsequent behaviors? Staying clear of conflict, staying silent, being in agreement with someone else because you don't know what you believe and you're afraid to be honest about that. Aspiring to be like the successful, the rich, the famous. How about allergic to following through or making quiet time for self-care a priority? What about compromising what you know is important to you for fear that you disappoint and therefore loosen instead of build your bond with someone you love or you want to love? Not participating in conversations, group activities, committees, so that others won't figure out who you really are. And the list goes on, and the list goes on. Now, I can share that my life choices and corresponding experiences have shown me that the core belief behind all my emotional strategies to keep safe and protected, while looking for intimacy and love in some of the strangest places, was, I am not good enough. Now, this thought has many disguises. Some I remember and stumbled across were these. Let's see. I don't know. I can't. You can't make me. I'll do it my way. No one hears me or sees me for who I am or gives me a chance. Or how about this? I am the one that should have been chosen. I was overlooked. It wasn't my doing. They got what they deserved. All creating that sense of unhealthy dependency on other people or the world outside of us to get our needs met. You know, sometimes we consider ourselves to be the compilation of our thoughts and our behaviors, our habits, reactions, and conditioned patterns. But that really only makes up our personalities. You know, beneath that belief of our identity lies the unrealized human potential, which is our essence. And that often lies dormant. And although this sometimes is something we cannot perceive with our intellect, emotions, or our senses, we can directly know its substance and power. Believe me, I am so grateful that Holmes taught our thoughts have power, and yet we are not our thoughts, but the thinker behind the thought. You know how when you come in from outdoors from having been out in the brightness of the sun, it's hard to focus when entering a darker room? When there's much light, our pupils shrink, and in the darkness, the pupils have to relax, and a bigger aperture is needed in the darkness. In the light, a smaller aperture is enough. So when you suddenly come in from the outside, your own house looks dark. But if you sit a while By and by, the darkness disappears, and you notice there's more light. We can see a little bit better. So we just need to learn to readjust our eyes by stopping the seeking for love outside and go inside to become intimate with love's nature as us. This is all about rising up to our own intelligence by not seeking ready-made answers, but living in the inquiry, pushed and pulled by our longing to know. If we seek outside in the light of others' ways, we will tend to destroy the very possibility of infinite intelligence as our guide. So as we're beginning the journey of undefended love, we can begin in the awareness of how we use our emotional survival strategies to cover up our inadequacies, those places we feel uncomfortable or incapable of dealing with. We can look at how we look to others to compensate our weaknesses. We can look at every time that we seek approval or look to another to tell us we are not to blame. In all of these types of emotional strategies, we strengthen our belief that we are not enough. Sometimes our survival mechanisms are shaved and showered even before we wake up in the morning. We can notice the attempts to control our internal experience and with our relationships to others' responses to us. Sometimes we seem so natural that we may initially have difficulty recognizing the extent to which all our interactions are orchestrated by these survival concerns. Have you noticed when it comes to our significant others, the closest in our circle of relationships, when we have our multiple layers of protection, padding in place, it's kind of as if we're trying to hug them through layers of overcoats. Our outer layers may meet, but our longing to be deeply connected remains unfulfilled. When we learn to identify and discontinue these emotional strategies, we will achieve the continuous experience of the intimacy in life we desire. After all, I think you would agree that many of us come to our relationships with that distorted image of who we are. Rather than identifying with our full and vital essence, which is always available but hidden within the core of our being, we spend our time trying to get today what we didn't get yesterday. And then we end up determining the value of our relationships according to how well they help us compensate for our sense of loss and inadequacy. One thing is for certain, if we keep trying to avoid feeling the kind of emotional exposure we felt as a child or at any time, and we hide our tender hearts from one another, we end up focused on what we can get from others instead of what we can give to them, and ultimately eliminate the possibility for genuine intimacy. Have you ever measured the health of your relationships by how close you feel to a person? And measure this closeness by how well the other responds to or meets your need? This closeness, as we will soon understand, is not the ultimate goal of relationship. It is only a developmental stage. There are, in fact, as I've discovered, 2 levels of closeness. I want to share them with you. I think these are levels that every relationship passes through on the way to intimacy. The first is called unhealthy dependency, and that is where we are focused on our relationship to the exclusion of ourselves. The second is the mature, mutually supportive level of healthy closeness, the foundation upon which true intimacy can be built and maintained. And it is characterized by the mutual goal to create a context in which 2 individuals rely on one another for assistance in restoring each other's sense of wholeness. So here are 3 common limiting beliefs I discovered, which created healthy or unhealthy dependency rather in my own life. The first was I experienced my partners or those I was in relationship with as having the power to make me feel good or bad about myself. I focused on my partner's needs as a substitute for being directly in touch with my own. And I was preoccupied with getting those in relationship with me to change in some way so that I could feel happy, loved, whole, peaceful, comfortable, welcome, wanted, trusting, content, or any of those emotions that collectively can be thought of to characterize feeling good about myself. Now, in the second concept of healthy closeness, we live from our essential nature and we feel a sense of mutual beingness with all of life. We feel both our individuality and our unity at the confluence of where our inner meets the outer. Now, this awareness is a simultaneous presence of belonging that transcends observer and observed, subject and object, inner and outer, self and other, spirit and world. And so it is with life. When it moves through this or through us naturally and freely, without our ideas of needing to get from outside of ourselves as our primary focus, we live in the peace of gratitude and for the beauty and goodness that we already are. So, my friends, if the strategy of needing to be needed as a way of loving or being loved rings a bell with you, or if you are always on the go because you are trying to make up for the fear that you are inadequate or not enough, please stop and begin building that healthy dependency upon yourself by knowing what it is you need and by taking the steps to meet your own needs, by becoming the energy and giving from that energy of what it is you think you lack. This will open you to having a direct experience of your true nature and therefore being intimate with the divine. It's a lot to hold in one's mind. It's a lot to hear and digest. So let me try to distill it. This is how I began. By remaining attentive to my feelings and the reactions that stirred within me, rather than turning my attention towards the other or the outer to the exclusion of my own needs. And rather than identifying with my feelings or as my feelings, I learned how to let them just swell and subside like waves of the ocean. And I learned to embrace them all, the light and the shadow. When we begin to step out of our suits of armor and into a sense of identity that encompasses more of our essential qualities, no longer believing that the discomfort will be never ending, we can begin to risk more self-revealing and self-reliance. Our longing for closeness, coupled with struggling to endure emotional distance when it comes up, ushers us closer to the intimacy we are seeking. Imagine that I'm holding something in the palm of my hand, and I ask you what it is. Okay, the first clue I'm going to give you is it's extremely hard. You might guess a tiny piece of steel or stone. The second clue I will give you is that it's colorless, so you might guess ice. The third clue is that it can be very sharp, and you might think of a piece of glass. Now, if I said, however, it was multifaceted, you might say a prism. If I said the last clue was to tell you it was highly valued, you might put all of the qualities together and arrive at this answer, a diamond. Now, each descriptive word on its own does not define the diamond, but the composite description gives us a good sense of what it is. We rally to the unknown across the bridge of the known. Essence expresses itself through the qualities that are familiar to us. By bringing to mind the sense of certain qualities, we can approximate what the essential self is like. The qualities to that point, to the essence, are infinite. Allowing the energy of ourselves to move into our experience will eventually bring our personal qualities of essence into being. And ultimately, the words we choose to describe the nature of our essence must themselves be given up. So let the words fall away, or they will stop the momentum they've been used to create, which is a full experience of the essential self in ourselves and in others. The outcome will be indescribably intimate. When I enter into that state of relatedness, instead of avoiding relationship, it has brought me closer to others, to life, and myself. Rumi says, through you, God touches me at the sweet core and changes that which I was, the rock of the earth, into the body of communion. We are all born for love. It is the principle of existence, and its only end when we are aligned with our true essence, which is love. We are mentally, physically, and emotionally stronger. That is our true end. Our energy flows. Our strength is restored. Love is the threshold where divine and human presence ebb and flow into each other. The most powerful healing doesn't come from exercise, diet, or clean living, but through love and intimacy and the emotional and spiritual bonds we have with each other. When we feel loved by another, we are reintroduced to a part of ourselves we had forgotten. And the awakening is often a spiritual epiphany. Teilhard de Chardin says this: today something is happening to the whole structure of human consciousness. It's a fresh kind of life starting, driven by the forces of love. The fragments of the world are seeking to be with each other, to see each other, so that the world may come into being in the truth of its nature. So, my beloveds, do not wait. Do not wait to give or receive as undefended love. For an experience of waiting is one of wanting, and that is not the life God is made of. Right now, if you but start where you are the magnificent, infinite possibility that fairy tales are built upon. The pure, unique potential in which evolution overshadows history. And so it is.
And now I invite you into this opportunity of sacred giving, knowing that there is an infinite supply of prosperity and abundance that is operating in and through us. We can open to expand our consciousness of acceptance and therefore give in a grateful heart. You know, when our souls are fed by the practice of giving, we can be certain that both the giver and the receiver are blessed many times over. For your convenience, we provide you with various ways in which you can make your donation. You can click on the box at the top of the screen. You can donate through our website or via Zelle. Or if you prefer to mail in a check to our office, you can do that, and here is our address. We receive and appreciate your gifts and tithes, and thank you for your support in helping us to remain a vital and vibrant and thriving center. May we all continue to seek and welcome the many opportunities we have to grow through our generosity and through our kindness. And now I invite you to affirm your prosperity through the power of your word by saying this with me. I freely and joyously give from the abundance and fullness of my overflowing wealth, knowing my gift goes with love
as it touches and blesses the world. And so it is. And now, our offering song.
There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. At least 100 ways for me to receive the countless blessings, and so I believe. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. Do it again. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. At least 100 ways for me to receive the countless blessings, and so I believe. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. There are at least 100 ways my good is coming to me. My good is coming to me. My good is coming to me.
Please join me in a closing prayer treatment. I move into the presence, the energy, the light, the love, the infinite possibility of Spirit living as me. And I say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to be the channel, the messenger, the way shower, the learner, the student, the teacher, the mentor. Thank you for allowing me to have the life I have, for being who and whose I am, respective to my own expanding consciousness in every given moment. I speak my word for the part of me in this universe known as everybody here, far and wide, listening and not listening, knowing that they too are the beautiful, perfect emanations of the Holy One, that life is good and very good, and that all life moves forward, evolving in divine right action just as it is meant to be, uniquely and divinely, as the individualized expressions of this Holy One. I give great thanks for this truth. I know our lives are blessed, and I release my word to that within me, the universal subjective law that always says yes. I affirm this truth, the words I have spoken, and their manifestation by saying, and please join me, and so it is. Amen.
To be humble, to be kind, it is is the giving of the peace in your mind to a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is the thinking that the heart can still be saved. And the darkness can come quick, the danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibility, and heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war,